came to him about me from the Commanding General of the DC National Guard. So I worked with Jim Gilmore's team and took him throughout the Commonwealth of Virginia into some very, very liberal neighborhoods. I really had to do a super marketing job to just get him into some of these homes and into some of these venues, because the first thing people wanted to know to say was, why am I going to be entertaining someone who's running for a Republican gubernatorial race? Why would I be doing this? So that was my first experience of roadblocks, of particularly black people just not wanting to hear another side of the story. From there, he did become governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia, and out of the blue, again, none of this, I wasn't planning any of this. Obviously, God had it in his plan. I got a call from his office one day to come to Richmond to chat about some opportunities, and that's when he appointed me Assistant Secretary of the Commonwealth of Virginia for outreach, one of the first Republican governors to actually have a cabinet seat that would be outreaching to underserved populations, and in particular, the black community. I also vetted individuals for boards and commissions, and surprisingly, we placed a lot of black Democrats into those seats who ended up becoming Republicans. And so very often I learned that you do have to outreach to people who are very, very different than you are, whose viewpoints are nowhere near yours. But if you can work with them on a commonality, on a common idea, on a common goal, then you do have a reason that you can actually sit down and talk. From there, again, one of the most challenging issues really came from the Christian right in Virginia, in that they had a very, very difficult time with the numbers of African Americans that Governor Jim Gilmore was placing and was bringing to the forefront. So that became a very, very challenging issue. Virginia is a very different place from Fairfax to Fredericksburg is one Virginia. From Fredericksburg down to Richmond is another Virginia. And then West Virginia, Western Virginia, not West Virginia, but Western Virginia, and then the whole Chesapeake area. So there are technically 4 different Virginias. And I really had to learn how to navigate all those areas and all of those different communities. But at the same time, it was a very, very beautiful journey, and I never would have had the opportunity to meet so many wonderful, wonderful people, particularly in the western part of Virginia, and understand the need for more policy changes that would embrace that particular area of Virginia. That would embrace that particular part of Virginia. That would embrace that particular part of Virginia. After that, I was very blessed to have appointments with Bush 43 as the Region 3 administrator for for the Small Business Administration, and then I ended up back here in Washington as Associate Deputy Administrator for Government Contracting with the Small Business Administration. But it became perfectly clear through that journey from Virginia back through to Washington that the greatest thing that I could provide to Black people, to underserved communities, was information. The information was the key. The fact that governments are horrible about marketing what they do and marketing all the products that they have. And that if I could provide that additional information and then to help people chart the path to actually get that information and then implement that information. That was one of the greatest services that I could provide during this journey. One of the things that Renard wanted me to bring out, and which I didn't know until after I had stepped out of office, was that my great-grandfather, Charles Coles, was the chair of the Republican Party in Charlottesville for a while, and that there was a struggle between Black Republicans and white Republicans during that time, and how there was a Republican convention in the western part of Virginia. It's funny how all this comes full circle, and where his delegation went to the convention, but that convention refused to see him. And so, you know, that's the very convoluted story of Virginia and politics and Republicans. My parents were Republicans until Kennedy came in, until the whole civil rights period came in. So I had very conservative parents, but yet they felt they had to embrace the Democratic Party because of civil rights. But overall, my household was a very conservative household. Everybody worked, everybody believed that there were opportunities in this country that were not available in others. And so, like Jennifer, I still believe very much that this is the greatest place in the world to live. But at the same time, we must make certain that that there is an equity bar that we put in place. And our measurement, not simply about economics, should be with the equity bar, but how we treat people. There should be an equity bar for that as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Again, these are not aberrations here. We got guys like this all across the country. Now, they are, I mean, these are, again, we're going to take this show all across the country. We really are, because as I told this reporter the other night, the Black community, and if you all have any questions, we're going to take about 4 or 5 minutes of questions, then we're going to end this portion of the program. So if anyone has a question, let me know. But Blacks are begging the Republican Party for a reason to vote for them.
That's true.
Blacks have no problem voting Republican. All Blacks are waiting for the party to sit down and talk to us, have a dialogue. And that's one of the goals of what we're doing here with Black Americans for a Better Future. We're going to go into the Black community and hook up with people like Bob Woodson, what Jennifer is doing down in Jacksonville, Florida, what Jimmy is doing through sports. He does several basketball camps during the summer for kids all across the country with active NBA players, Hall of Famers, all across the country. We need to put money behind what he's doing, because he's doing work that you never see on the front pages of the newspaper. Most professional athletes do the right thing, both on and off the court. But you never hear about them unless they do something stupid. But you have, for example, how many of y'all know who Steph Curry is? Played for the Golden State Warriors. Do you realize he married his high school sweetheart. They met in church in North Carolina before he went to, where did he go to school? Davidson, yeah, North Carolina. And every time he's interviewed, and when he won the MVP trophy last June, he started talking about his Christian faith and how he loved his wife and they pray together, and you never see them get in any trouble off the court. Yeah, but you didn't see ESPN highlighting this, and the year before that when Kevin Durant won MVP, remember that speech he gave about his mother? With not one shred of notes, and named each of his teammates one by one and talked about what that individual teammate meant. So you have guys in the NBA, NFL, baseball, who are all doing the right things, but no one provides a platform or a vehicle for the general public to go out there and to become aware of it. So that's what we want to do relative to these black Republicans like this, because each of these persons have got a whole Rolodex of other black Republicans who are just as successful, who are involved in, and Bob, and after we finish it, you all sit down and talk with each of them, but if you want to know about Chicago, Ferguson, where I'm from, or Baltimore, all the negative story you hear, for every negative story you hear, Bob can tell you about what he's doing on the ground that you never see in the newspaper. How folks who've gotten out of jail are running multi-million-dollar businesses as entrepreneurs. Bob got a million stories to tell like that. And so we have, I'm so glad each of you all have decided to accept this award, and I look forward to you all having a chance to just interact with these beautiful people here. And what we're going to do is we're going to end this portion of the program. We're going to have Algebra and Bria Marie. They're going to be performing in right at 60 minutes, 0.23 seconds. But who's counting?
You just asked them for questions.
Oh, I didn't see anyone raise their hand. Oh, okay, we got questions. Okay. I mean, hey. That's why I need Jennifer, because Jennifer keeps me on the straight and narrow.
I'm so glad she's supervising you.
Yeah, I should.
Good evening. My name is Robert Wallace. I'm from Baltimore, a place called Cherry Hill. I suspect that I'm like many people in this room. I was the first member of my family to become a Republican. I'm a long line Democrats, and I'm still the only Republican in my family. My question to the panel is, it seems like the Republican Party has been taken over by the really right-wing part of the party. And I came up with guys like Jack Kemp. Jack Kemp was one of my mentors. But it seems like the party has drifted or been taken hostage by the right wing. And I wanted to get your response to that.
All right, Bob, let's start with you since he invoked Jack Kemp's name.
Yeah.
And then you too, Jennifer, you got some insight on some of the stuff.
One of the things that I've been critical about for the same reason is that Republicans tend to sacrifice old friends to appease old enemies. I was a guest with Paul Ryan at the State of the Union address, as was three ex-offenders and poverty warriors. So there is tension in the Republican Party between sensible Jack Kemp Republicans, and I think Paul Ryan fits into that category. And now as Speaker, I've taken him every month for 3 years to high crime, low income neighborhoods where he has seen success, a restoration and redemption in those communities. And he has pledged, he was in Dallas with me on Martin Luther King's birthday. And I think it's these young people who are from the Kemp wing are going to dominate, but what we've got to do is get behind them and offer more than just arguments about what the left isn't doing. That's why my organization, we have 3,000 grassroots leaders in 39 states. And we are getting the resources so they can speak for themselves. And so so I just think that there is a struggle, but at least there is tension within the Republican Party. On the other side, it's just monolithic. the very fact that Hillary Clinton can come to Black America and talk about race, is it that's the only thing that we, and Bernie Sanders meets with Al Sharpton, the president of Black America. That's an insult. To assume that the only thing you talk to us about is race. And we need to point that out. But what we ought to do, though, is what we're trying to do, as Kemp did. Kemp promoted a low-income agenda. And just like Paul Ryan, Paul Ryan has visited more low-income, high-crime black neighborhoods than any member of the Black Caucus. And so did Kemp. And so that's what we need to promote. When people like Paul Ryan steps up, we need to be supportive of him and encourage more people to do what he's doing.
The problem that Paul is going to have, though, and I have a great deal of respect for him, it goes down, kind of getting into my legislative world here a little bit now. There is going to be a problem because I think he is going to continue to be put in a position by the folks who have taken the party hostage that's going to make his life very difficult. The week that Republicans won the House again, and it was clear that John Boehner was going to become Speaker of the House, he and a mutual friend of ours were having a drink, and this is like 5 days after the election, 6 days after the election. And I told John, I said, John, look, these guys are going to drive you absolutely bad. You are going to have such a difficult time getting things done. Because John was from the Kemp and other the party days where, frankly, when we had to figure out a way to get along with each other, or we weren't going to get anything accomplished at all. And we couldn't let the philosophical far-right guys drag us down that path. And that's what's happening, I think, with the Tea Party now. And of course, you know what happened to my friend John. I mean, ultimately, yeah, he got through a couple of years, but ultimately, he couldn't take it anymore, and then he had to fall on his sword. And Paul's going to be a great speaker, I think, but he's going to have that same challenge. And so we've got to figure out a way, the party's got to figure out a way to speak in such a fashion that we are not dominated by one issue, two issue, not really caring about people, but right wings in our party that is going to destroy us.
Let me just make one comment on that. There are examples of where Republicans have prevailed. Dick Riordan in 1990 in California, white Republican businessman. Republican hadn't been elected to the city mayor's office in 35 years. What Dick Riordan did, he understood if you plant charitably, you can harvest politically, but you don't plant and harvest in the same year. Dick came into the East LA, worked with Sister Jenny Lichtenberg, a liberal Democratic nun, planted the roots, invited his friends, built a big after-school program that the low-income Hispanic community understood he was serious. When he announced for the mayor's office there, and he ran, low-income Democratic leaders rose up and voted. He was the first Republican to win in 35 years and won re-election for the second time with 60% of the votes carrying every minority. So if Republicans show up and deliver for the least of these in concrete and specific ways, most people in these neighborhoods are apolitical. They're like me, they're radical pragmatists. When you speak to them, just like these Republicans, like Bob Dole in Illinois and others, they're in swing districts. When they go out into the community and do what Kemp did, is show up and bring some of their money friends who pay for their PACs and support some of these grassroots leaders who are reducing violence and improving the community, when they show up and demonstrate that they're adding value to people's lives, they will vote for them. And that's how you counter that foolishness. It's not by complaining about what they're doing. Offer people a better alternative. Demonstrate to them why they should vote Republican.
To your question with regards to the party being taken over by the right wing, the party itself is broken up into fractions. And I don't even think the party really knows where it is, where it's going, or what it's all about. But they do know that they want power and money. And are we bringing money and power to the table? And that's just the bottom line of politics. Money is a mother's milk of politics. So do they are we valued in such a way that we either bring in the power to them with our votes, or we bring the money to bring the votes so that they can have power? The key is not so much trying to change the party that exists, but change a party for the future. If we are not going to help mentor others to come up and take our place, and for me, I was elected to the Florida House of Representatives, running against a white former school board member, and it was told to not support me because I was not elected, hadn't been elected to anything, and this was from the party people, hadn't been elected to anything before. Here's a school board member that she was previously elected. Part of my district, 65% of the district was in a rural white area. I shouldn't say rural, it's more white. And they said, the rednecks are not going to vote for a black woman. Well, I won that race with over 80% of the votes. So the key is that when we step up, we have to get out there and support each other. And when you get there, it's not just about you, it's about the pathway that you create to bring others along the way, with or without the party support. The bottom line is when you do that, you're able to change the dynamic and create a new course and direction for the future. Now, when you get in, it's not so easy either, because the power players are at that table and they don't want you at that table because they see you as a threat to their power and position. So it becomes another struggle, regardless if you're on the Democrat or Republican side, but more so, I've seen it on the Republican side because I've never been anything else but. So what do we do with regards to the party? The party itself doesn't even know the history of black Republicans stemming from day one. So how do you expect them to even embrace that? When it comes to Black History Month, what are you hearing? Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King. By Christ, we have so much more on a daily basis of the oxygen breathing apparatus, to the ironing board, to the electricity, to the street lights that you encounter on a daily basis for our safety and security on the streets. But you don't hear that because they don't know it. So now it's incumbent upon us to educate our party folks, to let them see how much we have contributed to the party itself and to America, and to embrace that as a diversity, not in just skin color, but thought as well. And showcase that as a positive to the party and not something they should run away from. However, do they really want, in some instances, do they really want to embrace us? Or are they just, well, we can win, because the strategists tell them, you can win by X amount of votes, you don't need to go after those black voters. The Republicans are going to vote for you anyhow, so you don't have to go after them. And then when you have the Republicans get in the House, they don't want anybody else to come in the House, so they're fine where they are, and not to embrace you to come in either. So that's another issue you're dealing with. But the thing about it is that we cannot accept the status quo. What are you going to do? Be an independent? You have no voice. You can't vote for anyone unless it's a general election or if an independent candidate is running. So we have two major parties we have to deal with. One that takes you for granted, the other one really taking you for granted. So what are you going to do? We create our own pathway. And we stay steadfast in it, and we support each other and keep moving, just like in the football. Our son plays for the football Eagles. Plays football for the Eagles. And when you see somebody coming into the end zone and you have a 1 yard line or a half-yard line, you see the rest of the team just pushing that person or catapulting them over the top for that field, for that touchdown. That's what we have to do. We have a team that's on a 1 yard line. Let's push each other so we can have those goals, so we can have successes to move us forward and catapult us to greater heights in the future.
Now you know why she was the lieutenant governor of Florida.